What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot to get into in the world of volleyball, such as the NCAA men's volleyball season starting this week. It all starts tomorrow as of this live recording, as two teams will be getting the NCAA men's volleyball 2024 season underway. Who will those two teams be, and who are some notable matchups to watch out for? Also, we have some more NCAA women's volleyball notable transfers, as Texas is just getting down and basically getting all these notable key transfers for their team. Will they be able to repeat? It's still too early to tell. Also, we have the Under Armour All-America girls volleyball match, which will be tomorrow as well. Who will be participating, and who are some notable Set Point former interviewees that I managed to get beforehand. So hand me a volleyball. Set it down, because I'm about to serve up some volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on IESR Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for tuning in on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday morning, Monday evening, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way to episode 227 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on Spreaker. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms, such as formerly known as X, or formerly known as Twitter, X, TikTok, and Instagram at IE Sports Radio. Also, we have a Facebook page for those that still use Facebook. All you just have to do is like us, and then boom, that's how you're able to follow us and get all of your IE Sports Radio updates. We also have a website, www.iesportsradio.com, for your latest sports news, which is updated daily, our blog, our Hall of Fame, our Fans of the Month, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point, our community forum, and our merchandise shop. For the past 9 years, going on 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary coaches, athletes, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports stages around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. A huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, the single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, it's low in sugar, and high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on, and all you have to do is visit www.planetjerky.net and place your order. In addition, if you follow Planet Jerky on Instagram and you message them saying that you heard about them via IE Sports Radio shows, like this one, you'll be entered into a raffle where you will get not one but 2 bags of Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Once again, a huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. And the way you can follow Set Point on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at set_point.ie, and on Instagram, at set_point.iesr. And I'll definitely be getting that fired up more and more as the year 2024 goes by. And you can follow me, Teran Rodriguez, mainly on X, at Teran Rodriguez1. I mean, I post some volleyball content, but not a whole lot, but not all of it, so follow as advised. But without any further delay, let us begin. And Happy New Year to everybody. And I hope y'all can hear me well. I'm actually recording this in my brother's apartment. I am in Texas, as in about a couple weeks, I will be heading to Austin for the First Point Collegiate Challenge, which I think is going to be awesome sauce. It's going to be held in Austin, Texas. It's going to be held at the Austin Convention Center. It's going to be on January 19th and 20th, which is a Friday and a Saturday. But we'll get more on into that as the day gets closer. So hopefully y'all can hear me well. And let's get started. So, as I mentioned, the NCAA men's volleyball season starts this week, and boy howdy, it's going to be fun times. And I'm so excited. Before we get on into this week's top notable matches, we have to go over the off-the-block All-American preseason team. There is an All-American preseason first team and second team, and this was actually voted by members of the volleyball media, so I don't know who else is voting, whether it's Tiff Wells, the play-by-play announcer for Hawaii Volleyball, or Jonathan Bates of Off the Block, or Vinny Lopes of Off the Block. But I, Teran Rodriguez, did have a hand in voting for the preseason All-American first team and second team in men's volleyball for Off the Block. And I actually was involved in some of the coaches' polls for Off the Block last year, so one of my goals was to be official volleyball media. So I kinda, hence the word kinda, have accomplished that goal. I'm hoping to accomplish that even more, but time will tell. Alright, so for the first team preseason Off the Block, we have Andrew Rowan of UCLA, Ido David of UCLA, Parker Van Buren of Loyola, Chicago, Spiros Hakas of Hawaii, Ethan Champlin of UCLA, Hilir Heno of UC Irvine, Jacob Pastor of Ohio State, Toby Ezeonu of Penn State, Merrick McHenry of UCLA, Simon Torwey of Long Beach State, Guillermo Voss of Hawaii, and Mason Briggs of Long Beach State. So that is the first team. Second team goes to Dan Mangun of Loyola, Nick Slight of Grand Canyon, Camden Gianni of Grand Canyon, Clark Godbold of Long Beach State, John Diedrich of Purdue Fort Wayne, Jackson Hickman of Grand Canyon, Dylan Klein of USC, Alex Knight of UCLA, Tanashi Davazocheva, Ball State, Will Rotman, Stanford, Sotir Shapanis, Long Beach State, Tion Taylor, BYU, and Ryan Merck, Penn State. So that's pretty much your All-American first and second team preseason from Off the Block. Now, prepare yourselves. I'm about to go over my players that I voted for. Warning, listener discretion may be advised. If your player did not get selected, don't take it personally. This was based off of, I had to vote for a certain position, at least one of certain position. Basically, I had to vote for at least one libero, one middle blocker, one for outside hitter, one opposite, and one setter. And then basically I got to go down the line. So I voted for my first team, Mason Briggs, Merrick McHenry, Andrew Rowan, Ethan Champlin, Clark Godbold, Spiros Hakas, Parker Van Buren, Guillermo Voss, Alex Knight, and Jackson Hickman. Now, I see how I missed out. I missed the target on Jackson Hickman and Alex Knight, but there are so many players you could choose from. I can understand why Simon Torwey was able to be selected maybe over Alex Knight, but Alex Knight I voted for just because he was named the most outstanding player. So with him coming back, I kind of don't understand how he doesn't make first team, but I don't know. I gave him first team. If y'all can basically just say this person should have been All-American, first team or second team, but this is for Off the Block. This isn't for AVCA, so don't judge me. And then Jackson Hickman, that one was kind of a brain fart pick. I could have probably picked someone else, probably maybe a Dylan Klein, which is totally understandable. But for second team, like I said, Alex Knight did make All-American Off the Block second team. Now for my second team in terms of Off the Block, Ido David, Aiden Knipe, Hilir Heno, Sotir Shapanis, Toby Ezeonu, Jacob Pastor, Jazz Galloway, Ryan Merck, Cole Power, and Camden Gianni. So I want to give some liberos some love. And I know everyone's going to probably say, why Jacob Pastor in in All-American off-the-block second team. Teran, you knucklehead, what are you thinking? Yeah, I kind of messed up in terms of Jacob Pasteur, not putting him in first team. But I also had to put an opposite, and Jacob Pasteur was not an opposite. I don't think I had another opposite outside of like maybe Alex Knight. But Alex Knight was outside hitter, so my selections were debatable. But I also had Clark Godbold as my opposite, so I guess I could have put Jacob Pasteur in, but yeah, well. So, and the reason why I put Cole Power in was because I was thinking of putting Brett Sheward in there, but since he wants to be setter, I kind of wonder, does he still qualify as a libero? I mean, he'll still probably play libero, but he did want to, from what I heard, is that he wanted to be the setter for Hawaii, and then he transferred to UC Irvine just to have a better shot at starting at setter. And I totally understand that. That's just from what I speculated and from what I heard. Don't quote me on that. But all in all, for my off-the-block preseason picks, those were what I got. It's not that I was trying to leave anyone out purposefully, but it's just a whole lot to choose from. And you only have 12 selections. So you're going to have to leave someone out. And it's only for 2 teams. So there you go. So that's pretty much that right there, as according to Off the Block and this whole All-American thing, according to it says that there will be an 8-team NCAA tournament in May at Long Beach State. So it's no longer going to be a 7-team NCAA tournament. Now, I'm not sure if there's not going to be any first-round byes, but I'm fairly certain it's probably going to be quarterfinals, then semifinals, and then finals, because normally there would be a play-in game or a first round, and then you have a quarterfinal, then you have a semifinal, and then a final. The first round would be on a Sunday or the following Sunday of the selection show. Then Tuesday would be the quarterfinals, Thursday would be the semifinals, and then the Saturday would be the national championship. That is what the NCAA or National Collegiate Men's Volleyball has done in years past. But now I think this makes it a whole lot easier, just having just 3 rounds just on a Tuesday, a Thursday, and a Saturday. So there you go. There you pretty much have it right there. And I'm really excited for it. I'm really excited for the season. So let's get on into some of these top matchups to watch for. It all starts tomorrow as we have this matchup. Wabash of Wisconsin will be hitting the road to Muncie, Indiana to take on Ball State. The two will also be playing on Wednesday, which I think is going to be really fun. I'm glad we get some volleyball on a Tuesday as opposed to waiting one more day. Then on Wednesday, like I mentioned, we get Wabash at Ball State. But we also get Loyola at Hawaii. Now, there are no ABCA rankings for this week. However, Loyola and Hawaii did finish in the top 15 of last year's coaches poll, of the final coaches poll, as Hawaii finished number 2, while Loyola finished number 13. So I really think that's going to be a dandy of a matchup, and I really think it's going to be exciting. I really think that we could be in for a good matchup. I know Hawaii has the home court advantage for this one. Both matches are going to be at Hawaii as they play on Wednesday and Friday. But I will also just say that Hawaii is definitely going to be a team to watch for. They're definitely contenders. As I mentioned, even though they lost a bunch of their players like Brett Sheward and Jakob Tele and Dimitrios Mouklias, I think Hawaii is still a contender, and you don't want to underestimate them. You never want to underestimate Hawaii in general, especially when they're playing at Stan Sheriff Center. And then Loyola with Parker Van Buren and a bunch of other young players, I think they could still be a good contender. John Hawks definitely has them going in the right direction. Obviously, last year was a bit of a dud just because they fell in the first round of the MIVA tournament, and that was kind of a bummer right there. I really thought Loyola had high hopes last year. Now this year, they have a lot of, I wouldn't say pressure, but they have more expectations they have to live up to, and I really think that Loyola can definitely live up to those expectations. They have the returners, that's for sure. It's just all about winning the matches that truly matter. Because you can be the best team in the regular season, but when it comes to like the postseason tournaments and then the NCAA tournament or the National Collegiate Tournament, as it's called, the regular season means nothing. Also on Wednesday, we have North Greenville at Ohio State. So this was just released 3 days ago. The Conference of Carolinas was just released 3 days ago, and how convenient. They released the Conference of Carolinas after I did my preview show, which, yeah, thanks Conference of Carolinas. I appreciate you not putting it out sooner and me having to skip over you, which I feel horrible for doing. I really didn't want to skip the Conference of Carolinas, but I didn't want to assume where which team was finishing. So, finishing first in the Conference of Carolinas is North Greenville. They got every first place vote from every other team that's not named themselves. And then Erskine is slated to finish second. They got the other first place vote. They had 39 points behind North Greenville's 49. King, which is under new management in terms of head coach, they are slated to finish third. Belmont Abbey slated to finish fourth, just barely, 1 point behind King. Then Mount Olive, 5th. Barton and Lees McRae, 6th, tied for 6th. And Emmanuel is slated to finish 8th in the Conference of Carolinas. So, honestly, for North Greenville, it's kind of understandable. They came oh so close to winning the Conference of Carolinas tournament, but fell one set short to King as they wound up winning the conference tournament championship in 5 sets, and they advanced to the NCAA tournament. And that was pretty much that for North Greenville. As Jen B also says, OH, IO. And I'll get to Ohio State in a little bit. But for North Greenville, I think they definitely can be a team to watch for. King finished in the top 15 of last year's coaches poll in the AVCA as they finished 15th, which is totally understandable since they made the NCAA tournament. But this year, it's going to be a little bit more different for King. I don't really have a great breakdown for the Conference of Carolinas just because, well, I had to travel to Dallas, Texas, but I can tell you that North Greenville can make things interesting, and King is definitely going to be up there. They're going to be playing some good talent. I want to say they're playing Long Beach State on the 3rd and the 2nd of February. That's my speculation. But back to North Greenville at Ohio State. On paper, this looks like Ohio State is going to win this one, but don't count out North Greenville. These Conference of Carolina teams are definitely ready to battle, and I really would not expect Ohio State to just breeze through them. I mean, they have a lot of returners, but North Greenville can be scrappy. So if I'm Ohio State, I would not underestimate North Greenville just because you're playing at home and you're facing a team that's in a conference that's not as popular as the MIVA, the MPSF, or the Big West, or the EIVA. Then we have on Friday, like I mentioned, Loyola at Hawaii round 2. I really think that's going to be a fun matchup. But now we have my series/matchup of the week, and this was not easy. This was between this matchup and Loyola at Hawaii. So Friday, my match and series of the week is Ball State at BYU. And the two will also be playing on Saturday. But Ball State, obviously, they finished second in the... Well, they're slated to finish third in the MIVA, and they finished the runner-up in the MIVA tournament behind Ohio State. So for Ball State, this is going to be a real good test because Ball State finished 10th in the Big West, the AVCA final coaches poll, while BYU had that great season where they fell short in the MPSF semifinals to Stanford, the host team. BYU is slated they finished 7th in the AVCA coaches poll, the final one from last year. So basically it's number 10 from last year versus number 7 from last year. That's why I think this is going to be a much interesting matchup, because BYU returns so many of their returning players. Well, Ball State is going to have a lot of questions to answer. Is Tanashi Davazocheva going to be able to step up with Caleb Jennis graduated? Or who else is going to step up for Ball State? Is Vanis Buckles going to get more swings in the middle? And how big will he be? Those are my big things for Ball State. Can they step up when it truly matters? I think they can, but it's so tough to win at BYU. Smith Fieldhouse is never an easy place, and as I mentioned in my preview from last week on BYU, Smith Fieldhouse has some key home matches this year. They've got matchups against UCLA, UC Irvine, BYU. I really think BYU is going to be a contender this year, especially since no one had expectations for them. They lost so much talent the previous year from last, and then this year, and then last year, they basically just shocked everybody. They got off to such a good start, and then they really proved themselves as a top contender team in the MPSF. And honestly, if it weren't for playing Stanford at Stanford, I think BYU might have been able to advance to the championship. But unfortunately, they didn't, and they fell short to Stanford, which I kind of expected just because they had the human cannon himself, Will Rotman. So all in all, for BYU versus Ball State, I really think this is going to be a very fun matchup. I think this is going to be a great matchup, and honestly, keep your eyes on the prize. Friday and Saturday, both of those teams are playing. Also on Saturday, we have Lewis at Penn State. So Penn State kicks off their season against Lewis. Now, Lewis has kind of been in a little bit of a rebuilding stage. I think Lewis is going to have a lot of questions in terms of rebuilding. They got through the Tyler Mitchum era, or the post-Tyler Mitchum era, or year one of the Tyler Mitchum era. Now they can only go up from here. But this year, I really think Lewis is going to... They can contend with the likes of Ball State, Ohio State, and Loyola, but they're going to also have a target on their back with Purdue-Fort Wayne basically being so close to them, as well as maybe Lindenwood and maybe McKendree. So for Lewis, my thing is, how do they go about playing at Penn State, whether they're playing in the small gym or they're playing at Rec Hall? I imagine it's going to be at Rec Hall, but for Penn State, obviously they got hit hard in terms of their graduation, but they return Mihal Kowal, Toby Ezeonu, Ryan Merck. Those are some of the notable players. Their setter is my only question mark for them. If Penn State can figure out who their setter is going to be, whether it's their freshman setters or Josh Rosenblum, who transferred from Long Beach State, I think Penn State can still be a contender. Yes, they're probably going to win the EIVA, no offense to Princeton and the other teams, but I just think that Penn State is still a contender. Everyone's probably going to write them off because they lost that big senior class from last year, but never underestimate Mark Pavlik's team. Never, ever, 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 ever. And if I recall correctly, I think he's going on year 30 of being the head coach at Penn State men's volleyball. So that's great for Mark Pavlik, friend of the show and former guest on Set Point. And I look forward to seeing Penn State in Austin, Texas. So you may think, well, is that it for all the matchups to watch for? No. We have the A6 Invitational for this week, as the A6 Invitational is a little mini tournament that takes place at UC Santa Barbara. So all the matchups on Thursday, starting off with, we have NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, taking on host UC Santa Barbara. Now, this is the battle of two teams that have lots of questions this season. UC Santa Barbara has the potential to be good, but who's going to be the it guy with Ryan Wilcox graduated? And then for NJIT, it's all about kind of picking up the pieces from last year. Last year, they made it all the way to the EIVA semifinals, where they fell to Princeton. But honestly, NJIT is scrappy. They have that Jersey grit, and as Ira Thor would say, the Jersey grit is for real. It's not just something I made up, or the New Jersey Freedom made up, or Ira Thor made up. The NJIT grit, or the Jersey grit altogether, is for real. And then after NJIT UC Santa Barbara, we have CSUN, or Cal State Northridge, versus GCU. So NJIT UC Santa Barbara starts at 2 p.m. CSUN will follow at approximately 4:30 p.m. So CSUN and GCU. GCU, I think, still has the potential of being really good. CSUN, they return most of their starter players from last year, especially their notable players. But my thing is, can they hang with a very talented GCU team? GCU obviously finished in the top 15 of last year's coaches poll. They finished 5th in the coaches poll, which is probably their best finish in terms of the AVCA men's coaches poll, and they made the NCAA tournament from last year. And if you all saw my interview with Matt Worley in the Long Beach State preseason tournament, or the fall tournament, when Grand Canyon played the likes of Long Beach State and UC San Diego, Matt Worley basically said that his big question mark is who's going to fill in the role for Cole Udall at libero. If they can get that position figured out, Grand Canyon is still going to be a threat. And they have a lot of good players that they return. I really think that Grand Canyon is going to be a very good team to watch for. And I don't think it's going to be based off of last year's success. I think last year's success is no accident. I think they are going to basically carry off from last year's success. Now, do I expect them to have another hot start from last year? No, I don't. I don't expect them to win, their first 13 or 15 matches in a row, all the way to MPSF conference play. But I do expect them to still be a contender. And heck, maybe, hence the word maybe, they could be challenging the likes of Stanford or BYU. I don't know if they could challenge UCLA, especially since they're going to be playing at UCLA this year, but Grand Canyon is a good team, and I definitely think that Matt Worley's team is going to be fun to watch. And then, like I said, CSUN, I still think they have some good players, and I think they could be the 4th best team in the conference, but it's when everything's all said and done, will they be part of that echelon of the Big West Conference Tournament semifinals? Because you've got Hawaii, UC Irvine, Long Beach State as the top 3. And then for the 4th team to make the semifinals, who would that be? It all depends. And then closing off day 1 of the A6 Invitational is UC San Diego versus George Mason. All right, so George Mason is basically like CSUN. They return a bunch of their players from last year, while UC San Diego also returns a bunch of their young players. The big thing is which team filled with a good amount of returners is going to have the better season. I think UC San Diego is definitely going to be good, but George Mason also, I think, can do some damage. The problem with both of these teams in their respective conferences is their conference has a juggernaut. The EIVA has Penn State and then Princeton as well, and then George Mason. George Mason's not too far off of Princeton, but for George Mason, they're going to have a tough time keeping up with the likes of Penn State. And then for UC San Diego, their conference is filled with 3 juggernauts, with one being a national semifinalist, and then the other being a finalist, who still is probably going to be good despite slated to be finished 2nd in the Big West Conference coaches poll. So this matchup is going to have a lot of uniqueness, and I think this is going to answer some questions about both teams. I think George Mason definitely is the more promising team on paper when comparing the two, but you never want to underestimate those Tritons. I think UC San Diego has a bunch of good newcomers this year that are going to make a good impact. And then Friday, you have UC San Diego versus Grand Canyon at 2 p.m. By the way, that UC San Diego-George Mason match will start at approximately 7 p.m. But for Friday's matches, UC San Diego versus GCU, 2 p.m. George Mason at UC Santa Barbara, 4:30 p.m. All of these times are Pacific, by the way. And CSUN versus NJIT is at 7 p.m. Then Saturday, you have CSUN versus George Mason, 2 p.m. Then you have UC San Diego versus NJIT, 4:30 p.m. And then GCU at UC Santa Barbara to close out the A6 Invitational at 7 p.m. And there is basically your entire week of NCAA men's volleyball matches to watch for. If I did miss any volleyball matches, please do let me know. I couldn't get to all of them, as disappointingly, the NCAA website doesn't have any matches in their scores, which really disappoints me. I want to say UC Irvine doesn't play. No, they don't play this week. They play Princeton on January 13th, and oh man, I wish I could go to that matchup. That is such a great matchup to watch for. And like I said, for UC Irvine, they're going to be good, but most of their first matches are going to be played in Crawford Hall, whereas the second half of March, they're all going to be played at the Bren Event Center. So if UC Irvine can get past the first half of their schedule in Crawford Hall, they could be in good shape. And as I was told by Stacey King, or Stacey Shackelford, the SID for UC Irvine Sports, Crawford Hall is the place where magic happens. And I don't think she's wrong. I really think UC Irvine can win in the place where magic happens. My thing is there going to be instant replay? Because I attended a women's volleyball match at UC Irvine when they played Cal Poly, and there was no instant replay. So there you go. Just some food for thought right there. But that is going to do it for that bit of NCAA men's volleyball news. I think that is basically it for NCAA men's volleyball as of right now. So let's jump on into some NCAA women's volleyball notable transfers. So this whole Taylor Landfair thing is basically down to two teams from what I heard. This was according to Dennis Punzel, who covers Wisconsin women's volleyball. So it was either going to be Wisconsin or Nebraska, and this was reported 3 days ago by said Dennis Punzel. He said Taylor Landfair will not be joining at Badger Volleyball or Wisconsin. So I basically had the speculation she's going to be joining Nebraska, right? Well, maybe. She could have another team in mind, as according to friend of the show, Robert Evans, he said some other team in mind, and good for her. He says Nebraska doesn't have the scholarships and doesn't have the money to pay for someone to... No, this is from Robert Evans. He says, for someone to ride on the bench. Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to comment on what he said. I'll just say I imagine she's going to go to... I kind of agree with him. I feel with Nebraska's depth, and they return all their players from this year except for the ones that transferred, I really think that Nebraska... It's going to be so tough to earn a starting spot. So Taylor Landfair, I think, would be better off at another school. I'm not trying to persuade her to try to go to a school, but if she wants to go to Nebraska and John Cook wants to bring her on, go for it. But if she can't make it to Nebraska, or she's not going to be able to, oh well. C'est la vie. And Larry B says Nebraska is going to be insane this year. Yes, this upcoming season for the NCAA women's volleyball season, I really think that Nebraska is going to be back in the Final Four, if not in the national championship. Speaking of national championship and the finalist, well, Larry B, before I continue, he says, go where you can play, go play where you can make a difference. Facts. And you don't even have to go to a big-time school. Like, some of these Big Ten players that I know have gone to smaller schools. And I hate to use a couple of these teams as examples, but Tommy Stockham went to Cal Poly from Indiana, and look at her. She is making a massive difference for Cal Poly. And she's going to continue to make a difference next year because she's returning. She is basically a paragon for Cal Poly women's volleyball because... Not trying to say this in a negative way, but without her, I don't know if Cal Poly hangs with the likes of Hawaii or Long Beach State or UC Davis or UC Santa Barbara. Just my opinion. But speaking of national champions, Texas got a big-time transfer from last week. And this happened last Wednesday, and oh boy, of course this news happened after I did my show. So, Reagan Rutherford, the Kentucky legend, has transferred from Kentucky to Texas for her final year of eligibility. So, Texas already got Whitney Lowenstein, and they already returned Maddie Skinner. I almost said Avery Skinner. They do have someone named Avery coming in, though, so stay tuned on that. But getting Reagan Rutherford is going to be so big. Like, that is going to be one stacked team. And I don't think Texas has too many flaws outside of maybe their middle. Like, you can't replace Asia O'Neal overnight. You can't just wave a magic wand and say, oh, you're going to be the next Asia O'Neal. So, there you go. And as I said, the rich continue to get richer. And Marcus Losgreat did ask this a couple weeks ago. He said... He basically asked, hey, is Texas going to win it all this next year? And I basically said, I don't have an answer for that, but with Whitney Lonstein coming in, my I don't know turned into perhaps. And now with Regan Rutherford coming in, my perhaps is now saying most likely. If they can show up more of their other positions, I think Texas is going to pose a major threat. And speaking of other transfers that they got Avery Carlson, a setter from Baylor, who is a junior, she is transferred. So Avery Carlson transfers from Baylor to Texas. So talk about going from same state, different city. And I would say same conference as well, but Texas is going to be in the SEC. So Avery Carlson is now the new setter. So you're probably wondering, well, what about Ella Swindle? Didn't she set for Texas, and wasn't she a part of that national championship team? Well, that is correct. However, from a lot of good sources who managed to fill me in, and I thank you all. If I don't remember your name, I'm sorry, but you know who you are who informed me of this. According to what I heard, Ella Swindle got hurt, and she's going to have surgery, and she's going to miss some time next year. Hopefully that isn't the case, because you've got a long offseason. Unless this injury was massive and it's going to be like an 8-month recovery, then maybe I see it happening. But Avery Carlson comes in at a great time, because now she could take over for Ella Swindle if Ella Swindle can't make it back onto the court in time. So that is big-time news right there. And honestly, man, Larry B said it best, the rich get richer, and the richer get richest. And Texas is just loading up their bases. So just when we all thought that Ella Swindle possibly being out to start maybe the beginning of the season was a possibility, Texas just says, well, we have another backup plan. We have Avery Carlson coming in. And that is huge right there. And Larry B says, but Nebraska, they're just too good. And yeah, they're going to be good in the especially coming years. Next year they're going to be really good, and then the following year they're going to be really, really good, and then the following year they're going to be really, really, really good. If not, it's going to be vice versa. Next year they're going to be really, really good, and then so on and so forth. So that is big time. That's big time for Texas right there. However, they did lose one player to the transfer portal. So while they did get Avery Carlson into the transfer portal, and they still have Ella Swindle, one of their setters that was on their championship team did actually enter the transfer portal, and that is Marina Crownover. So I do remember her from when Long Beach State played Texas, and Maria Crownover did actually get to see some playing time for Texas to begin with. At first, Jarrett Elliott threw Marina Crownover in for Ella Swindle, as I got to see in the match between Long Beach State and Texas, and then Texas and LMU. And then he just settled in for Ella Swindle. So for Marina Crownover, she enters the transfer portal, and I kind of figured this was going to be the case, just because you can't have... I mean, you could maybe have three setters, but how are you going to have a 6-3 offense or a 7-3 offense or something of that sort? Like, three setters would be craziness. So having two setters with Avery Carlson and Ella Swindle makes more sense, and I kind of figured that Marina Crownover would eventually make her way into the transfer portal, and I do wish her the best, and I'm certain she's going to land on her feet. Whoever lands her is going to get a big-time setter. Jumping over to the Mountain West, we have Isabel Martin transferring from UNLV to Florida. Now, this is big time right there. She's an outside hitter. She's in her final year of eligibility. She was the Mountain West Player of the Year in 2022, and she was the Co-Player of the Year in 2023. So, oh man, Florida is going to be really good this upcoming year. Remember, they got hampered with injuries with Kira Hudson, Alexis Stuckey, and Anna Dixon. Now, Dixon, I'm not sure is going to probably stick around. Maybe she has one more year of eligibility because of maybe a redshirt year, but I'm not entirely certain. But I do know Alexis Stuckey and Kira Hudson returns, and they obviously have Kennedy Martin, no relation to Isabel Martin, and a bunch of other players as well. They also have AC Fitzpatrick, who is going to be returning, and that's big for their serving. She's not just a serving specialist, she also can play outside hitter as well. And Florida also has Ellie McKissick returning as well, as she's going to be returning as the setter, which I think it's going to be big time for Florida. I really think Florida is going to be so good. And who knows, maybe they could challenge Texas next year in the SEC. Because remember, Texas is going from Big 12 country to SEC country, and that conference is going to be stacked. You've got Kentucky, you've got Florida, you've got Georgia, who's on the rise. Tennessee still might be good. Texas is going to be really, really good. So I would not want to be a team in the SEC that I did not just mention. Jumping back to Big 12 country, we have Jordan Williams transferring from Kentucky to Kansas State. So she's a redshirt junior, and she is a middle blocker. She actually put up good numbers with Kentucky. Unfortunately, her time was limited, but it's all good. I don't have her full numbers in front of me, but her numbers were solid considering she only played in like 30-some sets. So I really think Jordan Williams is going to prove to be very useful for Kansas State. And I have to give a big thank you to Steve Astor, who brought this to my attention. So that's big right there. Jumping over to ACC country, we have Nettie Okamore, who is a grad student as well. She's a middle blocker. She's transferred from Florida to SMU. So she's kind of underrated in my opinion. She led Florida in blocks with 120. She also cracked the century mark in kills for Florida last year. So I really think Florida lost out on her, which is tough. But SMU, they're going to need some firepower because they're going to the ACC, which is going to have, Louisville. It's also going to have Pitt, Miami, Stanford is coming in. Maybe Cal can be somewhat good. Georgia Tech, they're scrappy as heck. I did not mean to rhyme that, I'm sorry. But you get the point. Jumping back to Big Ten country, we have Argentina Ung, a setter and grad student, who is transferred from Washington State to Arizona State. And Arizona State also got another transfer player whose name, unfortunately, I did not put down, but getting Argentina Ung is big time right there. As I want to say their other setter is graduated or she's out of eligibility, but Argentina Ung being from that Washington State team that made it to the Sweet 16 and that had a great year, which included beating the likes of BYU, Baylor, and Texas, as well as beating other teams like Oregon and then making their way to the Sweet 16, like I mentioned. That's big time right there. I think that Arizona State is going to prove to be quite the good team in the Big 10. Or Big 12, sorry. Big 10, Big 12. Too many big teams. And circling the wagons back to the ACC, SMU got another player from the transfer portal as they got Natalie Foster, a middle blocker who's a grad student from Wichita State. So you all remember that Wichita State won the NIVC from last year. Obviously, the NIVC isn't as glamorous as winning the NCAA tournament, but it's still postseason championship. So Natalie Foster led the team in kills, just barely, with 356, and she hit 413, which is very good. And she led Wichita State in blocks with 126. So SMU, like I said, they're going to need all the firepower they can get, and they're getting quite a bit of firepower. My only thing is that going to be their middle blocker duo? Is Natalie Foster and Nettie Okamore going to be their middle blocker rotation? That's my food for thought right there. Now jumping over to Big Ten country, we have Ella Roble, redshirt sophomore outside hitter / opposite, who is transferred from Wisconsin over to Ohio State. Now, she did not see any action this year with Wisconsin, so I imagine she's got maybe 3 or 4 years left of eligibility. But Ella Roble is going to be big time right there. And if I mispronounced that last name, I apologize. But Ella Roble is going to be a good impact player for Ohio State, especially since they got hit hard in terms of graduation this past season. I think Ohio State could make their way back into the swing of things in terms of being a solid team. I don't think they're going to be a great team because you've got other teams that are entering Big Ten country, such as Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA, which Larry B doesn't like. But I digress. So Ohio State is going to have some question marks, but getting Ella Roble is a big step in the right direction. And then lastly, we have Taylor Preston, who is a transfer from Oklahoma. She is a junior, and she's an outside hitter / opposite, or she will be a junior next year. She transfers from Oklahoma to Michigan State, and that's a big get for Michigan State, just because Well, first and foremost, she could play outside or opposite, and then she was second in kills in Oklahoma with 354, and she was first in blocks with 111. Keep in mind this is an outside hitter and opposite, not a middle blocker. And Leah Johnson, her Spartans just got a whole lot better. Now, does that move the needle to them being a possible contender? I don't know. So we'll have to see where Michigan State ends up, but I really think Michigan State is going to be improved from last year. And they did manage to beat Penn State at least one time, so I really think Michigan State can possibly, hence the word possibly, maybe, and possibly be a contender, but time will tell with Michigan State. All right, but that is going to do it for the first half of the show, and that's going to do it for all the NCAA women's volleyball notable transfers. We're going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we will discuss some Under Armour All-America girls volleyball rosters and who's going to be playing as that matches tomorrow. And then we're going to be going over some of the goals for Set Point and what to look out for this year. So keep it locked here. You are listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No. Not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide for your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernick, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Adam Kark will be coming up later on as he'll be doing Chi-Town Weekly at 7 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. And without any further delay, let's get on into segment number 2 of Set Point. So tomorrow, as of this recording, is the Under Armour All-America Girls Volleyball match between Team Fire and Team Ice. Oh, gosh. Oh, my goodness. Talk about an interesting team name. So, anyway, if I sound a little under the weather, by the way, still trying to get over the cold. I'm almost 100%. I still have to keep this show going just because it's Set Point and it's my baby. Anyway, so for Team Fire, they consist of Aiden Amies, Jayla Augusti. If I mispronounce any of these names, I apologize. Hannah Benjamin, Nayelis Cabello, Kaya Castle, Melissa Kawa, Melu Garcia, Lavani Key Powell, Kennedy Osun Sanmi, Skylar Pierce, Kyla Presley, Lola Schumacher, Charlie Furbringer, and Kendall Bashir. So that's Team Fire. As I have interviewed 2 of those players in the past. I interviewed Charlie Furbringer, who, if you don't know, she is the daughter of Joy Mackenzie Furbringer and Matt Furbringer, former college volleyball players, and Matt Furbringer is the assistant coach for the U.S. men's national team. And then for Team Ice, that consists of Favor Anyanwu, Carly Cisneros, Ava Falduto, Bailey Higgins, Kiki Horn, Amanda Mack, Taylor Parks, Peyton Peterson, Alec Roth, Emerson Selman, Lainey Smith, Izzy Stark, Asia Thigpen, and Maya Tverdi. I really cannot pronounce that last name, so if I pronounced Mia's last name incorrectly, I apologize. But those are basically it's basically Team Ice. Unfortunately, I never got to interview any of these players, but it's all good. So, I don't know who's going to win. If I'm being biased, I'm going to say Team Fire. If I'm being logical, I'm just going to say Team Fire just because fire melts ice. But from what I'm hearing, Team Fire is mainly offensive-based, while Team Ice looks like they're mainly defensive-based. So, we shall see what happens, as the game is going to be at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, if not 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30, and then if not 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time. So there you have it, and it's going to be on ESPNU. So if you have ESPNU, you're golden. If you're going to be at UCF, well, they're sold out in terms of tickets. So these are basically going to be the future of NCAA women's volleyball players, and who knows, maybe they'll be the future of Team USA women's volleyball. So I really am excited for that, and maybe I might be able to watch. Maybe. It all depends on what I'm going to be doing at 3 p.m. Central Time, because remember, I'm in Texas for a little bit. As Patty Bax actually was in the chat room, she said, "Hope you are enjoying time with your brother, Teran." Thank you. And she says, "Happy 2024. And yeah, I did have to change the time of the show. So while I'm in Texas, my normal time that I would normally be doing the show would be 6 p.m. Pacific Time, which would be 8 p.m. Central. That's a no-no, unfortunately. So as of now, I'm going to be moving set point to probably 2 p.m. Pacific, or 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time, and then 4 p.m. Central time. So it just kind of works out that way for me, and it is what it is, but we shall see. And all in all, I apologize for those that are unable to hear, that are still at work, but it's just going to have to work as is until I get back to California. If I get back to California, but I digress. All right, that is going to do it for that little bit of news and for the Under Armour game. I'm really excited for this game, and I just think that Team Fire is going to win. Just because the last time someone compared a offensive team versus a defensive team to me, the offensive team wound up winning. So I think that I have to roll with Team Fire. I hope I'm not jinxing them, but I'm rolling with them just because Melissa Kawa can really serve the ball tough. And same with Charlie Furbringer. She serves the ball tough as well. So if those two can serve the ball tough, and Melissa Kawa could also pass. There's a reason why she's going to Stanford. And there's a reason why Wisconsin is going to have Charlie Furbringer. So there you go. But I would encourage volleyball fans to watch that game if needed, if possible. So there you have it. All right, but that's going to do it for that little bit of news. Before I head on out of here, just want to tell y'all that I basically have goals for this year. Like everyone has New Year's resolutions. Everyone has goals for this year. So for Set Point, my goals are, the first one is make weekly videos and have players and coaches on it and basically commit to it. And I would call this Set Point Extra Points. And I would be totally down to have that on video. To basically have them on a video, basically a Zoom interview, and basically just talk volleyball and whatnot. If not, I'll be having more guests on the show. It all depends. So we'll see what happens. But I'm really going to try to encourage to have more guests, more content, and not just limit the video interviews to basically just the postseason of the NCAA tournament, where I just have two coaches on and that's where we discuss. But I will definitely try to reach out to the players and the coaches. It's going to be a little tricky just because I'm out of town, but I'll definitely try to make it work. And also, with the NCAA men's volleyball season returning, or being tomorrow, I'm going to be having my weekly videos on X, if not Instagram, where I'll be discussing some of the top matchups to watch for, kind of like I do here, and basically kind of be breaking it down, kind of giving them my little spiel of it. So be on the lookout for that on X, formerly known as Twitter. So that's goal number one. I really want to commit to it, and I really want to have this whole thing as a success, to like have players and coaches and get to know more of these people, and who knows, maybe it'll lead to something big. So there's that goal right there. So my second goal is try to have a bigger role with the NVA in addition to my writer duties. So as you all know, I work with the NVA. I am kind of their writer, which I like doing, but I kind of feel like I want a bigger role. Maybe like a sideline reporter role with like Noah Chast and Haley Henderson. I just feel like I want a bigger role than what I want. Now, if Nick England and Vinny Rodriguez and all the others say, oh, we can't give you this role, then so be it. But I would really like a big role with the NVA just because, well, I want to do my best to try to grow the game. And who knows, maybe in addition to me having those weekly videos of like players and coaches, I could have like a few NVA players on and maybe get to know them better. So I think that would also be in culmination to that. And maybe we could call it Timeout with Teran. So, or Teran's Timeout or something of that sort. So we'll see what happens. I would like to pitch that idea to Nick just because we want to I think the NBA should know more of these players just because some of these players could be hidden gems. Some of these players probably no one has even heard of and they're just making a big impact. So there you go. Then the third goal, and this is kind of a stretch of a goal, but get Set Point a partnership. Now, that could be a little bit of a Hail Mary, but anything is possible. I've seen some of my buddies get partnerships with for being fans, and I'm thinking, why can't I do that? Why can't Set Point get a partnership? So that would not mean me leaving IE Sports Radio. I'm still going to be with IE Sports Radio unless said otherwise, but I definitely want to get Set Point into that partnership thing, maybe with a little NIL thing. So it's a bit of a stretch right there, but I would totally be down to have that as a goal. And if I accomplish it, cool. But if not, then I'll at least try. I'm at least going to try to make partnerships and whatnot to build relationships. Because if you build relationships with everybody and anyone, then you're basically going to be successful. And if you have your connections, then you're already a step ahead of the game. And then lastly, my goal for Set Point this year is become official media for volleyball. So everyone knows the volleyball media, like Emily Eamon, maybe Sam Gore, Holly McPeak, Katie George. The list goes on and on. Daniel Gilman. I could probably list more and more names off, but I'm probably going to put y'all to sleep. So I would like to be part of that media. Now, me being part of the off-the-block media, where I vote for the coaches poll and for the off-the-block preseason All-Americans, that's a step in the right direction. And I totally forgot I was part of the whole off-the-block media until Vinny Lopes, the one that recruited me, sent me that email and said, hey, I like what you're doing. And actually, hold on. I actually do have the exact message right here. Keep up the great work. We'd like to extend you an invite to vote in our media poll if you are interested. And this was actually on February 4th, so it's almost being 1 year to this day of Vinny Lopes approaching me and saying, hey, keep up the great work. And I told him I definitely am interested, and I basically gave him the email, and then boom, that's how I was able to be part of Off the Block Media. Now, I'm not writing stories for them. I'm just part of their people who they vote for the coaches poll and for anything else. So that is a step in the right direction, but I want to become big media. Basically have my own NCAA pass or anything of that sort, or my big-time media pass where people are not going to say, oh, this guy is not basically a part of a fandom or a part of something pretend. He's basically a part of something special. He's basically part of the media. So that is basically my goals for Set Point. And I guess my personal goals for this year would be, one of my personal goals would be to make Set Point go to greater heights, which I think would be great. And Jen B says, way to set goals, Teran. Best of luck to you, and I believe in you. Oh, thank you, Jen B. And I believe in you too, and you're going to do great in 2024 as well. So, honestly, I'm looking forward to 2024. That's why I titled Set Point, or this week's episode, the 2024, the year of new beginnings. And I'm excited for it just because I really think Set Point can really take off. It's just all about me sticking to what I have and building off it. Just because if I build off it, I'm going to be successful, and I really can't wait to see what is in store for Set Point, and I really think that it could take off. So that is pretty much that right there. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time to drop the beat, because I'm about to dip like a banana in chocolate. You feel me? Thank you everyone for tuning in to Set Point. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. Shout out to the chat room, Jen B, Patty Bax, Mike Pat, and Larry B for tuning in. I really do appreciate y'all tuning in and supporting me. I will definitely be back next week at my new time, 2 p.m. Pacific Time, 4 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Eastern. I really am excited to be back on the air. And Patty Back says, good luck, Teran. You have a great start. I thank you, Patty. And I think you are going to do great things with the Buffalo Huddle as well. Definitely tune into all of iSports Radio shows. For everyone here at iSports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the week. Start 2024 off on the right note. I can't wait to see you all at the Austin Convention Center for the First Point Volleyball Challenge. and I will see you all on Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Have a great night, everybody, or a great day, depending where you are at. Peace!